it's Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions, and we have an exciting week this week. We are all about mindfulness, so we are jumping in this week. We have 2 success groups that are kicking off. It is the key steps to live a happier and healthier life, part 2. The success groups will follow that. We have a girls group, which is a professional women's group. So we're talking about relationships. We're talking about work-life balance. Like, how do we build our lives as we're just stepping into the world on our own? And how do we let go of that implicit messaging that comes in as a part of us trying to discover who we are and individuate from our old nuclear family as we try to build a new nuclear family and kind of search for that right person to build our life with. So we've got a lot of great things that are happening in the women's professional group. And then we have a men's group on Tuesdays, which is going to be focused on growing up out of relationships. So as we found heartbreak and we found that men have kind of this really core sense of self to be a father, a provider, a husband, they find themselves lost after losing these long-term relationships, whether they're finishing a divorce. Many are kind of just getting into the game of separation. Some just got the bomb dropped on them that their partner wants to leave. And so we're going to be looking through that. And both groups will be following part 2 of the key steps to live a happier, healthier life, emotional regulation. So we have 3 key steps. The first was really the success, understanding your vision of success and building goals. And then we looked at all the ways in which the stressors in our life pull us from our internal focus and our success and moved us to comparison and external validation. We're now doing emotional regulation, which is going to be really fun. And then we're going to look at grief beyond loss. We're looking at distress tolerance. We're looking at a lot of different archetypes in our self-value, gratitude and suffering, perceived expectations, and manifesting positive energy. And then the core of it all is this understanding of universal constructs. And universal constructs are the 5 key things that we must all need. And when we don't, that is a big trigger that pulls us into that implicit brain. And we just start reacting very, very, very quickly. And I've got a great map for you to see once we get to that. So that's kind of what the next 9 weeks unfolds for us, is we're going to release the book. We're going through the success group. I'm doing it on the YouTube just like I am, going through the group. So chapter 1 in the book is part 1, day 1 in the group. And that is what we're focused on in our YouTube channel. So the theme of the week is mindfulness. We always start with mindfulness because it is grounding. It is the foundation to wellness. We cannot be well unless we're in the here and now, and we can't stay well unless we look at the here and now without any judgment. There's no shame in this game. So sit back and learn some really great things about how to be mindful. How do we stay in a present state? How do we optimize when we are in a triggered state? How do we make that into a valued state? There's so much things that we're going to learn this week. Subscribe, stay attuned to all of the things that we're going to talk about. I've got a really great program for you. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions, and we are on the week for mindfulness. So we are going through some different ways of being able to understand what mindfulness is and how it's so difficult for us to stay mindful and how to get in a mindful state, and some cool tips and tricks along the way. And today we are talking about monkey brain. So the Buddhists do have a concept of monkey mind, and their idea of monkey mind is this act of and the sense of presence of being restless, unsettled state of mind, like a monkey jumping and leaping from branch to branch, our thoughts jump from one worry, memory, or distraction to another, often leaving us feeling overwhelmed and unfocused. And so through that, I wanted to kind of pivot away from necessarily a religious structure into more of the science behind that, and kind of rebranding it to monkey brain. So sometimes we call it lizard brain, sometimes we call it monkey brain. We're talking about that amygdala. He is really, really old and needs to go to Florida with everybody else. We'll be leaving for Florida actually next week. So it's warmer down there. Just sit on a beach with a hammock and just chill out, you know, retire with some dignity. But amygdala wants to keep hanging out and calling all the shots. He really didn't get the memo. And so the amygdala, this monkey brain or lizard brain, is really trying to be kind of the star player. It wants to be the ones to score the goals. It wants to be the one who has control. It wants to be responsible because its whole job is for survival. But what it doesn't understand, and there's a shift in reality there, is that we are pretty safe, secure people in our lives. Like, we are well developed. And so we aren't in a place where we are normally, for the most part, we're not in a life-threatening state. And so the amygdala's role is really redundant at this point. It really doesn't make sense to have it as prevalent as it is. And yet it takes over our lives so much. And it's really hard to not let it go. I mean, because it's there for survival. It is just doing its job, but it's so impactful when it does its job, and it really puts us in a very hurt place. So signs that your amygdala is kind of hanging out a little too much and we need to tone it down a little bit and start finding that prefrontal instead of going in that temporal lobe, is that we constantly are worried about the future, or we have a lot of regret over our past. We have an inability to focus on one task, and we have this persistent self-criticism and doubt. So we are constantly kind of evaluating situations for what they are, or what they are not, instead of actually just being in the situation. And so think about that. Think about when you are looking at life. Are you analyzing life for what it is or isn't? Or are you actually allowing life to be and be present with life and engage with it as it is presenting to you? And I will say the mind will trick you. Perception is a funny thing. There are many times where we do actually think that we are engaged in life, and I do question that, and I ask you to question it. What is the theme of these thoughts? And if it's a negative theme, if there's always or never, you're probably in an anxious brain. And if you go back to Cognitive Distortions video, that was several weeks ago, we talk about bad brain, we talk about cognitive distortion. So go back to some of those earlier videos and be able to, I'll have the links in the description for you as well so they're easily accessed. You can start deciphering, am I actually present or not? The answer probably is you're not. It just is what it is. Like, it is the brain doing its thing. No shame in the game. And so, you know, what we want to do is be able to understand kind of what is happening, why the mind is racing. It's doing it for survival. It's not doing it to harm you. It thinks it's helping you. But that's what we do in life. Think about a time where you desperately wanted a sense of agency or control. You probably did something very reactionary, very emotionally driven, and what you found is that you lost control in an effort to try to seek it. This is the monkey mind, the monkey brain, the lizard brain, whatever you want to call it. that is what's happening, is you're trying to make sense of something and you're desperately trying to find a sense of control. And while you're doing it, you're losing it because you're using the wrong part of your brain. And so what we're trying to do is ground, get out of that emotional dysregulated state, find the executive function, find your leadership presence, build self-awareness, start coming in and being more aware of what your triggers are, what is going on, when are you in a present state, when you're not in a present state, find that radical acceptance, and then connect, find that social awareness to be able to connect with others in that present state. The amygdala, the emotional regulation space, is not necessary. We need to be in an action-oriented place. It is important, and we have 9 weeks or 8 weeks. We're going to talk about why it's so important and how it holds us back and how it pushes us forward. But be okay with the idea that this is just what it is. It is what it is. And that's what we're trying to overcome. So what are some ways to reduce this mental noise? Well, we want to first connect with our bodies, and we start connecting with our bodies with connecting our breath. Later on in the week, so subscribe, stay connected so you'll know. We're going to do 5 ways to have 5-minute meditations, a really good way to do breath work. And then we had, a couple of days ago, we had mindfulness. So a really good way to find a here and now and build in that morning routine of just finding that connection with self. So find that slow, focused awareness on your breath. Do the body scans. Really notice what your body is doing in certain situations. Label those thoughts. Name, don't blame. Find some gratitude practice. Find ways in which you can either find gratitude or you can find suffering. They're on the same spectrum. We're going to talk a lot about that in a couple of weeks. So what are things that you can be grateful for? What are things that give you value and meaning? How are you finding strength building and growth and value instead of suffering and despair? Digital detox. Yesterday we talked about what holds us back. Go and download in the video description, or go to my website, counselingwellnesssolutions.com, on the blogs, you'll see digital detox. These are ways to be able to find calm and really optimize on that restless mind. Some other things that we want to see for our modern mind is acceptance of imperfection, that good enough self that we talked about a couple weeks ago. It isn't about stopping the thoughts. It's about observing them without judgment. And cultivate curiosity. I love the idea of just being curious. Instead of having judgment, oh, they probably did that for that. Oh, no, why did she choose that? No. And instead, we cultivate curiosity. We just treat our mind like a little garden, and we tend to be positive and let go of the weeds. We look at what is good and we wonder what it is. It's all a science experiment. Life is just a giant science experiment, so you look at it at every opportunity. Okay, well, today it rained and now I have beautiful flowers. Okay, so water is good. I've learned something here. And so instead of dwelling in, it's raining, I can't do anything, this sucks. Instead, we're saying, hey, but look how beautiful my flowers are. And man, those tomatoes are really sweet when I get a lot of rain. So these are the things that I want to learn. These are the things I want to hold and cherish, so that I know that the next time it rains or the next time I want to interact with something, I know how I want to do it in a more positive effect. Instead of being guarded and defensive and protecting myself, I'm welcoming and warming and excited to see a new opportunity. And simplify your environment. The more that you reduce clutter and distractions, the more that you have mental space, the more that you have physical space, the less you're likely to be very anxious and guarded. So there's a lot that we can do to reframe this energy, recognize and be aware, and, use this idea of what we call a focus funnel. Take pause, breathe, identify one task to focus on, set a timer for 20 minutes, work uninterrupted, then take a short break and repeat. This is Pomodoro technique, and it does work well as we are trying to move away from a restless mind and back into a sense of here and now. And so that is what I have for you. We do have some daily practices that you can go onto the blog. And if you want to know more about a bad brain or monkey mind, it's called Saying Goodbye to Bad Brain. It's the first book that I wrote, and I am still in love with it. There's still such key principles in here to understand what the brain is doing and why sometimes it feels so hard for us to feel like we are successful. So go on Amazon, the link will be in the video description, and take a look if you want more about the neuroscience of why we do the things we do. I am Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. Thank you so much.